Hello and welcome to this tutorial on using the Libby app to download ebooks and e-audiobooks. My name is Chad. I work with the Marathon County Public Library. And before we get started, one thing about the Libby app, it's used to access the Wisconsin Digital Library catalog and is used to read books or listen to books through the app as well. One thing, if you have a Kindle Fire device, unfortunately, the Libby app, as of this recording, March 2020, is not available on the Kindle Fire. Fire users can still download the Overdrive app or use a laptop or a desktop computer to browse and check out books, and then send those books to a Kindle via wireless. So if you'd like some instructions on how to do that, you can give the Marathon County Public Library Wausau headquarters a call at our reference desk, 715-261-7230. So to get started with the Libby app, depending on the type of device that you are using, you want to go to your app store. So it's the App Store for Apple devices, Google Play, or the Windows Store, and search for the Libby app, Libby, and it will come up as Libby by Overdrive. And you can download and install and then open the app. So that's how you would do that on your device. If you are going through the library's website, which you can do, you'll just go to the main page, and here under catalogs, there'll be a drop-down menu, and you can select Wisconsin's Digital Library or Overdrive. We have some instructions on how to do that. You can go straight to the Digital Library catalog from the library's website, or you can go to the use the Libby program basically in your browser, which is what I've clicked on. And that brings us to this first page here. So whether you're using the Libby app on a tablet or a smartphone or on your laptop, the first time that you do this, you will have to sign in. Libby keeps you signed in. You have to manually remove your card later if you don't want to use it anymore. Otherwise, it just keeps you signed in the whole time. So you won't have to repeat these first steps. So the first thing that we'll do is answer yes, we do have a library card. And then click on this middle one here. I'll search for a library. And what we normally recommend is just using your zip code. So we'll use one of the Wausau zip codes here, 54403. And if you're in the Marathon County or Wisconsin Valley Library Service system, this should pop up, Wisconsin Public Library Consortium. So we are going to click on that. And then what we'll do is this first option here, choose a location. Now, this may look a little different depending on what device you're using, but the Marathon County Public Library is part of not only the Wisconsin Valley Library Service, but all libraries in the state, including MCPL, are part of this digital library or have access to the Wisconsin Digital Library. So when you're choosing a location, you will have to scroll or swipe your finger up and down the screen to go all the way down to Marathon County Public Library. And you can see on this device at least, it does not give the exact location for each of the 9 MCPL locations, but that's okay. You can really just click on any of them or tap on any of them. It's your card number that's the most important. And so we'll just choose one of these. And here is where we enter our card number, which is the number found on the back of your library card. Usually starts with 234. You're going to type in this whole number and do not include the spaces. So I've created a temporary card just for the purpose of this tutorial. I'm going to type that in, and then click or tab next. And then the PIN or password, at least for MCPL patrons, should be the last 4 digits of your phone number. So I'm going to type that in as well. And then we are signed in. So we can see this is our virtual card for the digital library. And we're going to then click next, and that takes us to the main page for the Wisconsin Digital Library. Now, a few things about the digital library system. Sorry, I had to take a drink there. Lenders or patrons are allowed to check out up to 10 books at a time, and you're allowed to have up to 10 items on hold at a time. And this is separate from any limits on print titles or audiobooks, on CD, or anything else in the MCPL system. And also important to note, some books are found in both the digital library and VCAT catalogs. Some are in one catalog, but not the other, and vice versa. So it's not a one-to-one system for what patrons have access to through the Wisconsin Valley Library Service. So this is the main page, and we have a few features. Oh, one other feature, your 10 books that you're allowed to check out. For books, you can have them for 7, 14, or 21 days. For audiobooks, it's 7 or 14 days. And at the end of that lending period, your book just expires and it gets returned automatically. So there's never any fines or anything like that. You don't have to manually return things. If you don't want to, you can, if you choose, to return them early before they're due. But if you do nothing at the end of your lending period, the book just goes away. So this is the main page of Wisconsin's Digital Library, and I'll show you a few features about this. Way up at the top here, you have the option to search for a book, either a specific author or a specific title. And here under Preferences, you have the option to set some filters for what you're seeing on the screen. So for instance, if you're only interested in books and you're never going to listen to audiobooks, you would want to go under Preferences and go to Format, and then you would click Books. And any changes that you make in the preferences, once you've made that change, you have to click or tap Apply Preferences to save that. And now everything that you see from now on as you're browsing through the system will just be books and not audiobooks. So it's kind of a permanent or semi-permanent filter, because you can always go back into your preferences and change it from, in this case, books to books and audiobooks. Click Apply Preferences, and then we have books and audiobooks. And you'll see them as if you are looking at both or looking for both. As you're browsing through the catalog, you'll notice audiobooks at the bottom of the cover. It's kind of a shrunken cover, and underneath in black, there's a little pair of earbud headphones, and it says audio. So that's how you tell the difference between books and audiobooks. So what you can do on this main page is you can scroll down through different curated lists or themed collections. So for instance, always available classics, comfort reads, lots of good stuff there. So these are just different lists that the folks at Overdrive and Public Library have put together, Digital Library, excuse me, have put together. But you'll notice I passed over all of these here, and these are subjects for which you can search. So if you're interested in mystery titles, you can click on that. Same with fantasy or nonfiction, and these numbers that you see next to them is how many titles in that subject there are in the digital library system. So almost 12,000 mystery books, 9,000 thrillers, although in this case between the two there would likely be some overlap, but 19,000 fiction and 19,000 nonfiction books and audiobooks, and so on. And if you're not interested in any of these subjects, what you can do is click or tap on Explore More Subjects, and you can go down the list to find all sorts of different subjects that are available through the Digital Library catalog. So to go back to the main page in the upper left here, I'm going to tap or click on Library. And we'll go back up to the top and go through the process of searching for something. So if you click or tap on the search box, and before I do that, again, depending on the type of device that you're using, laptop, tablet, smartphone, things might look a little different on your own page. For instance, like the search option may be more toward the top right of your screen with a little magnifying glass rather than being right at the top like it is here. But if you are searching for a specific author, in this case, for example, you can start typing in the author's name, and as you do that, it will bring up suggestions. So you can type the whole name if you want, or you can just type a few letters and look through the suggestions. And if you are searching for a book, same thing. You can type in the title, and it will give you suggestions. For some common words, it may show you both titles of books and authors. But let's go back to John, and we'll go, in this case, under John Sanford. Now you'll notice as you're browsing through your search results that some of these titles have place hold next to them. And that's because there are a finite number of copies available for patrons to check out. There are classics and others that are always available, but there are many more titles that only have a certain number of checkouts available. And people across the state, for the most part, with some exceptions, have access to the same number of books, or to the same title, same number of books. So it's if you use the system long enough, more than likely at some point you're going to have to place an item on hold, and you would do that here, and it automatically pulls your email address, and then you would get a notification. And we'll go through that process later. But if a title is available, instead of place hold, it's going to say borrow. If you are interested in placing a hold and you want to know how long it might take, you can click or tap on this little calendar icon, and it will show you approximately how long the wait might be. Yep. You can also, if you were to click or tap on the cover of the book, it will give you a summary of the book. And let's go back, and if we find an audiobook copy, bear with me here, not trying to make you dizzy, just trying to find an audiobook. Well, an audiobook will tell you about how long it'll take to listen to once you get into the details of that title. You'll also notice, in this case, on top, right on top, it will tell you if this book is part of a series. So if you click on that title, what it will show you a little further down the line is the other titles in that particular series. So if you're interested in reading these chronologically or listening to them chronologically, you would know where to start. Now, if you are going through or looking for books by a particular author and you want something right away, you don't want to have to place anything on hold, you want to check something out, what you can do if you don't want to save yourself some time, if you don't want to just keep scrolling through, you have the option here in your upper right of refining your results. And these are very similar to the preferences, but think of them as more like temporary filters for your immediate search results. So for instance, if you want to check something out right away, you can go under Refine, go under Availability, and you can click Available Now, and it will weed out all of those other books that are not available. So you're only looking at books that can be checked out right away. So why don't we find a book that we can check out? And let's go back to, sure, let's pick Marlon J. Well, let me back up. Sorry, folks. Oh, also, if you go back up to search, it does remember your prior searches, so you don't have to type in the author's name again. So let's go through the process of borrowing a book. So I am interested in Sanford, and I see this one's available. Sure, let's give it a try. So I'm going to click or tap Borrow. Brings us to the second page. And now the very first time that you check something out, the default is that you will have it for 7 days. But if you click or tap on that, you can increase your lending period to 14 or 21 days. Again, with audiobooks, you have the option of 7 or 14 days. With books, you have up to 21 days. And once you change that, all of your checkouts from here on out will remember that, and you'll have the same lending period. So if I'm choosing 21 days now, everything I check out from now on will be for 21 days automatically. And you can always change that. With each book that you check out, you can change your lending period if you want to. But we're going to go ahead. This is showing us we have 0 of 10 books checked out. And I have one book on hold, which I did in a previous session. So I'm just going to click Borrow. And depending on the type of device that you're using, you should see a little kind of time clock that will kind of fill in as it's downloading. But now it's basically finished downloading. So you have the option from here of opening the book and start reading right away. You can keep browsing. You can go back to the catalog and keep browsing for other books, or you can go to your shelf, and that's where we're going to go for our purposes here. The shelf is where you go to find everything that you have checked out, which would be on your loans page, everything that you have on hold, and tags. And we'll get into tags later, but long story short, for now, it's kind of creating a wish list for yourself if you want for future reads. Now, so let's go to our loans page. And the very first time that you check a book out, it's going to ask you how you want to read the book. And for our purposes here, we're going to choose the Libby app. Now you can choose Kindle, and it's a slightly different process as far as downloading the books. Kind of reroutes you over to Amazon and can send it to your book that way. So like I said, you can use Libby, you can use the digital library system on your Kindle Fire. It's just the Libby app itself cannot be downloaded onto a Kindle Fire. But for our purposes here, we're just going to tell the system that we're going to be reading our books in the Libby app. And our spinning wheel tells us the book is loaded or loading, and there we go. Your book is there. You can click the right side of this or tap the right side of the screen to turn the page, or you can use your finger and swipe across the screen from right to left to turn the page. Now you'll notice we had some options there before that disappeared. So if you click or tap on the middle of the screen, these different options come up. So it tracks your progress as you're reading a book. But up here in the upper right corner, we have some different options. So for instance, we can click this little circle and make what we see on the screen just one column or two columns. You can search for a specific word, or you can actually use that feature to look up a word. This is a bookmark. You don't have to bookmark your page, because when you are reading and you get out of the story and do something else on your device, it remembers where you are. So you don't have to bookmark a page. Unless you want to come back to it later, or you want to remember a specific passage or something like that. Now these three lines in the upper right corner, within here you can search again, you can go to specific chapters, go to your bookmarks, you can change the reading settings. And this is basically different options to make it easiest on your own eyes. This text scale here, you can go up and increase the size of the font, or make it smaller if you prefer. Right now we have a white background with black letters. You can change that to kind of a tannish sepia tone, or you can do black background with white letters, whatever you prefer there. You can also change the font style from legible to a supposedly scholar format, paperback. There's also an option for readers who are dyslexic to improve the readability of the words. Or you can go under custom and choose several different font sizes here. which way it's justified. You want to put more spacing, more or less spacing between the words or the lines, excuse me. So all of those different things you can do to make it easier for you to read. Now, if we go back to close those reading settings, if we wanted to go back, we have a couple of different options to do that. You can click or tap back in the upper left corner. You can go back to your shelf to go to a different book that you have checked out, or we can go back to the library. So for right now, we're going to go back to our shelf. And a few other things about your shelf, and in particular your loans page. It tells you how many days your book will be due. If we go under Manage Loan, it will even tell you the exact time that your lending period expires. You can renew a title if nobody else has it checked out, similar to print books. And that option will show up 3 days before the lending period ends. And if you are able to renew that book or that title, it will still count down to your original lending period. So say, due April 20th, it would say due in 1 day in this case. And then basically it runs through the entire original lending period, 21 days. But if you are able to renew it, it will then automatically check the book out to you again at the end of that 21 days. We also have the option here of returning the book early, and I'm going to do that. I'm not actually going to read it, so I'm going to return it. This option pops up. Are you sure? Yes, we're sure. We want to return the book. And I'm going to say find your next read to take us back to the catalog. Now it's the same process for checking out a book if it's an audiobook. So I'm going to click on this, going to read through the summary. Sure, that sounds good. And again, I mentioned before, you can see how long approximately it will take to listen to the book. You can see who the narrator is. You can even play a sample of the audiobook if you want to see if you like the narrator of the book. So we're going to do that. And you can play a sample and it doesn't count against your checkouts. You can read a sample of a book or listen to a sample, and it gives you, just a little bit here.
Hachette Audio presents See Me, written by Nicholas Sparks, read by Christopher Ryan Grant.
You can even skip ahead to see what the narrator's voice sounds like.
Commercial area of strip malls, convenience stores, chain restaurants, and car dealerships.
Okay, so I would go back in the upper left corner, and sure, that sounds good. I'm going to borrow this book. Be aware that when you're downloading an audiobook to your device, it does take a little bit longer, depending on your internet connection, than an ebook might, just because it's a bigger file. So just to go through a couple of the audiobook options, again, it tracks your progress down at the bottom. You play. A few options up here. Again, you can bookmark a specific area or chapter or passage. The crescent moon here is to set a sleep timer, basically, or set a timer. You don't have to go to sleep, but you have the option of setting a 30-minute timer, and then at the end of that 30 minutes, it will stop the book automatically. So maybe if you wanted to listen to the book before you go to sleep. You also have the option to increase the narrating speed if you'd like. Not for everyone, but definitely for some, depending on how you prefer to listen.
Herself, Maria had to admit that Serena was right about the fact that Colin, when he wasn't bruised, bloody, and soaking wet on a deserted stretch of road,
1.5 times the speed.
Oddly clean cut, despite his tattoos and powerful build. He had a quick, almost wry grin.
And it goes up to double the speed.
So did the group of women at the far end of the bar who'd shown up 20 minutes ago.
And if you click it again, it'll go back to the normal
watched
speed.
him after he'd turned away. Same thing with the other bartender.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my shelf, and I'm not actually going to listen to this one. I see one person is waiting, so I'm going to return the book. And then it just disappears. So, mentioned before that every once in a while you may have to place a hold, so I will take you through that process here. Let's just go up to nonfiction, and we'll find a book that we're interested in and place it on hold. Malcolm Gladwell's written some interesting books. Sure. Let's go with that. First, I'm going to check the calendar, see how long I might have to wait. 25 weeks, okay. So I have plenty of other things to read or listen to in the meantime, but I know I want to listen to it eventually, so I'm going to click place a hold. And once again, it will tell you how many holds you have already, how many loans as well. And a reminder, if you didn't click on the calendar right before you place a hold, it will tell you about how long the wait might be. And if you get to this point and you decide you don't want to put this book on hold, in the upper left, you can just click on nonfiction again, and it will take you right back to the list of nonfiction titles. But I do want to place it on hold, and so I'm going to do that. And now you have a few different options on your hold shelf. So I'm going to go to my shelf, and we're going to go to holds. And you have the option to cancel holds. So you can go under manage hold, and this is one from a previous tutorial, but I don't need this one anymore, so I'm going to cancel the hold. I'm going to go back to our shelf, go back to my holds page. Now, with manage holds, we just went through canceling, but you do have the option to suspend a hold as well. If you have a lot of books coming through, you really want to read this one, and you're next in line, but you want to finish the book that you're on, that's fine. You can do that. You can suspend your hold anywhere from 1 to up to 30 days, and then after 30 it jumps way ahead to suspend a hold for 180 days. So and the nice thing about it is if you are next in line, you suspend your hold, it keeps your spot in line, everybody else just jumps over you, and when you are ready to get your book, the suspending of the hold ends, you'll still be first in line and we'll get the next copy. So I don't really need to suspend this, but that's just how you do it. So I'm just going to go back to the holds. And as you continue to go through your shelf, it will keep you updated on approximately how long your wait might be. Now, I mentioned before on your shelf you have a third category of tags. And before we go to the catalog to show you what that's all about, you'll notice here it does keep track of recent activity. And you can, I should know, I'm sorry, but I forget how long it keeps these. But you can see pretty much all the titles you've borrowed and titles that you've recently returned. If you're not into that, you can go to see your timeline, and here under actions in the top right, you can disable that if you don't want the system to keep track, or if your list is getting full and you kind of want to start over and clear it out, you can remove all of that activity as well. But tags. So let's go back to the catalog, and each book next to it has the option of a tag. And you can give a book a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's how they get their ratings overhead. Or you can click on the little book icon, and that will place that title onto a list for you that you can then find on your shelf in the tags section. So I just put this educated book, just tagged it, and if I click on that, you can see There it is. So if you want to check a book out eventually, but your holds list is full, or you just don't want to forget about it, you can keep track of books that you want to read in the future. You can also create your own tag. When you click on tag, you can click add, and you can give your own list. You can create as many lists as you want for which you can tag books. So that's the long and short of it. Let's go back to the main library, and we'll go back up to the top of the page, and you'll notice in the upper right there's a little icon for Libby. Within there you have some options for help. There's a help and support section. There's a help page. You can also call the MCPL Wausau Reference Desk at 715-261-7230, and we can try and help you over the phone or set up an appointment for you to come in to the library, or you can call one of the MCPL branches as well and get some help that way. So the final step, if you ever want to discontinue using the digital library system, you're all done with it, the way you would get out of it would be to see library cards. And so it'll show us our card here, and then under actions, we can click or tap the red remove card, and it's gone. That's that. So yeah, basics about using the Libby app and the Wisconsin's Digital Library Catalog. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, or at least found it useful, and have a nice day.